A bell chimed as Karen stormed through the doors of Stitches and Styles, her face flushed with rage. The prim and proper facade she had carefully cultivated crumbled away, revealing the entitled brat beneath. "This is an outrage," she shrieked, drawing startled glances from the other customers browsing the racks of neatly folded garments. "Your jeans ripped the moment I tried them on. This is completely unacceptable." The young sales clerk, Emma, hurried over, her eyes wide with alarm. I'm so sorry, ma'am. What seems to be the problem?" Karen thrust her shredded denim towards Emma, the fabric hanging in tattered ribbons. "The problem? The problem is that your shoddy merchandise has ruined my favorite pair of jeans. This is your fault, not mine." Emma faltered, struggling to find the right words. I don't understand. How could this have happened?" "I don't care how it happened," Karen snapped, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "All I know is that I came in here to buy a new pair of jeans, and now I'm leaving with my old ones in tatters. You're going to refund me for these and give me a discount on a replacement pair. Immediately." The other shoppers had stopped browsing, all eyes fixed on the escalating confrontation. Emma glanced around nervously, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Ma'am, I'm afraid I can't provide a refund without further investigation." "Perhaps we could." "Investigation?" Karen interrupted, her voice dripping with disdain. "There's nothing to investigate. Your shoddy merchandise ripped my jeans, and that's the end of it. Now, are you going to make this right, or do I need to speak to your manager?" Emma swallowed hard, her hands trembling slightly. I'll get the manager for you, ma'am." She hurried towards the back of the store, leaving Karen fuming in her wake. Karen folded her arms, her brow furrowed in a menacing scowl. This was completely unacceptable. How dare these incompetent fools try to deny her rightful compensation? She was Karen Wilkins, a pillar of the community, and she deserved to be treated with the utmost respect. As the manager, a harried-looking middle-aged woman, approached, Karen braced herself for the confrontation. This was going to be a battle of wills, and she had no intention of backing down. The manager, her Namadic reading Susan, approached Karen with a strained smile. "Good afternoon, ma'am. I understand there's been an issue with some merchandise." Karen thrust the tattered remains of her jeans towards Susan, her eyes narrowed in accusation. "Issue? This is more than just an issue. Your shoddy workmanship has ruined a perfectly good pair of designer jeans. I demand a full refund and a generous discount on a replacement pair." Susan blinked, taken aback by Karen's vehement tone. "I see. Well, let me take a closer look and see what we can do to resolve this." She gingerly examined the shredded denim, running her fingers along the jagged ribs. This is quite unusual. Our jeans are made to be durable, so I'm surprised to see this level of damage." Karen scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Unusual? This is unacceptable. Your poor quality control is to blame, and I won't stand for it. I'm a loyal customer, and I expect to be treated with the respect I deserve." Susan hesitated, sensing the tension in the air. "Well, I can certainly understand your frustration, ma'am. Let me speak with my supervisor and see what we can do to make this right." As Susan hurried towards the back office, Karen turned to glare at the other shoppers, daring them to challenge her. How dare these people witness her humiliation? She was Karen Wilkins, a woman accustomed to getting her way, and this was a grave injustice that must be rectified immediately. When Susan returned, her expression was one of trepidation. "Ma'am, I've spoken with my supervisor, and I'm afraid we can't provide a full refund for the jeans. However, we would be happy to offer you a 30% discount on a replacement pair, as a gesture of goodwill." Karen felt her blood boil, the veins in her neck standing out in stark relief. 30%? That's an insult. These jeans cost hundreds of dollars, and you're offering me a measly 30% discount? I won't accept this. Susan held up her hands in a placating gesture. "Please, ma'am, I understand your frustration, but that's the best we can do. Our policy clearly states that we don't provide refunds for damaged merchandise. Karen opened her mouth to unleash another tirade, but a sudden realization dawned on her. Turning on her heel, she stormed towards the exit, her designer handbag swinging wildly. This isn't over. I'll be back, and next time, I'll make sure you regret crossing me. As the bell chimed behind her, Karen could feel the weight of the other shoppers' judgmental stares burning into her back. But she didn't care. She was Karen Wilkins, and no one was going to stand in her way. As Karen stormed out of the garment shop, her mind raced with a whirlwind of emotions: fury, indignation, and a burning desire for vengeance. How dare those incompetent fools refuse to make amends for their shoddy workmanship? She was Karen Wilkins, a respected pillar of the community, and she deserved to be treated with the utmost respect. Fuming, she climbed into her pristine Mercedes SUV, slamming the door with more force than necessary. With a shaking hand, she started the engine and peeled out of the parking lot, weaving through traffic with reckless abandon. Unbelievable. She muttered under her breath, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the steering wheel. Those pathetic little worms have no idea who they're dealing with. As she drove, an idea began to take shape in her mind, a devious plan that would teach those insolent store employees a lesson they would never forget. Karen Wilkins was not one to be trifled with, and she would stop at nothing to get the justice she deserved. Pulling into the driveway of her palatial estate, Karen quickly parked the car and hurried inside, her mind already whirring with possibilities. She needed to gather her resources, formulate a strategy, and execute her plan with ruthless precision. First, she would need to gather evidence, a foolproof case that would leave no doubt as to the store's culpability. Surely, there must be some kind of security footage or witnesses that could corroborate her version of events. Then, she would need to enlist the help of her family's high-powered attorney, a man known for his cutthroat tactics and unyielding pursuit of victory. With a steely glint in her eye, Karen strode into her home office, her designer heels clicking against the polished hardwood floors. Time was of the essence, and she couldn't afford to waste a single moment. Her reputation, her dignity, and her sense of entitlement were all at stake, and she would stop at nothing to emerge victorious. As she sat down at her desk, Karen couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction. Those lowly store employees had no idea what was about to hit them. She was going to make them pay, and pay dearly, for daring to cross Karen Wilkins. Over the next few days, Karen was a whirlwind of activity, her laser-like focus and unwavering determination fueling her every move. She had enlisted the services of her family's high-powered attorney, a shrewd and unyielding legal mastermind named Robert Langston. Together, they set out to build an ironclad case against the garment shop, leaving no stone unturned. Karen scoured the store's online reviews, searching for any mention of shoddy workmanship or poor customer service. She even went so far as to visit the shop again, under the guise of a different persona, to gather more evidence. As she sifted through the information, a pattern began to emerge. It seemed that the store's quality control issues were more widespread than she had initially suspected. Several customers had reported similar incidents of damaged merchandise, with the store's management refusing to take responsibility. Armed with this damning evidence, Karen and Robert set their plan in motion. They drafted a scathing letter, outlining the store's failings in excruciating detail and demanding a substantial financial settlement. Failure to comply, the letter warned, would result in a high-profile lawsuit that would expose the store's dirty laundry for all the world to see. The response from the store's management was swift and predictable. Within 48 hours, Karen's phone rang, and the panicked voice of the store's owner filled her ears. "Mrs. Wilkins, I've received your letter, and I must say, I'm quite concerned. This all seems to be a misunderstanding, and I'm sure we can work something out amicably." Karen's lips curled into a triumphant smile as she listened to the man's desperate pleas. "A misunderstanding, you say? Well, Mr. Stevens, I'm afraid the evidence tells a very different story. Unless you're willing to meet my demands, I'll have no choice but to take this matter to court." There was a long, tense pause on the other end of the line, and Karen could almost hear the gears turning in the store owner's mind. "Very well, Mrs. Wilkins. I'll have my accountant draw up the settlement paperwork immediately. What are your terms?" Karen leaned back in her chair, savoring the moment. "Double the cost of the damaged jeans, plus a 75% discount on a replacement pair. And I want a written apology, signed by you and posted in the front window of your store." Another pause, followed by a resigned sigh. "Agreed. I'll have the documents couriered over to your office first thing in the morning." "Excellent," Karen purred, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "It's been a pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Stevens. I do hope you'll learn from this experience and treat your customers with the respect they deserve." With that, she ended the call, her heart racing with a heady mix of triumph and vindication. She had won, and she had done so in spectacular fashion. Karen Wilkins was not a woman to be trifled with, and she had proved it beyond all doubt. As the days passed, Karen's victory over the garment shop began to feel somewhat hollow. While she had succeeded in extracting a substantial settlement and a humiliating public apology, the thrill of her triumph had quickly faded, replaced by a nagging sense of dissatisfaction. She had always prided herself on her ability to wield power and influence, to bend the world to her will through sheer force of personality and the weight of her family's considerable wealth. But this victory, as sweet as it had been in the moment, felt somehow empty, devoid of the deep satisfaction she had expected to feel. Restless and unsettled, Karen found herself unable to fully enjoy the spoils of her hard-fought battle. The designer jeans she had purchased with her settlement money hung in her closet, unworn, and seemingly tainted by the ugly confrontation that had brought them into her possession. Late one evening, as she sat alone in her opulent living room, sipping a glass of expensive red wine, Karen found herself reflecting on the events that had led her to this point. Had she truly been in the right, or had her sense of entitlement and her unwillingness to accept responsibility blinded her to the true nature of the conflict? The more she thought about it, the more she began to realize that her actions had not only failed to bring her the satisfaction she had craved, but had also alienated her from the very community she had once been so proud to be a part of. The judgmental stares of the other shoppers, the whispers and rumors that had no doubt begun to circulate, all weighed heavily on her mind. Karen sighed, swirling the wine in her glass as she considered her next move. She could, of course, simply continue to ride the wave of her victory, basking in the knowledge that she had emerged victorious. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that such a path would only lead to further isolation and a deepening sense of emptiness. With a resolute determination, Karen set down her glass and strode towards her home office. It was time to take a different approach, one that would require her to swallow her pride and confront the demons that had been haunting her. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but if she wanted to reclaim the sense of purpose and belonging that had once been so integral to her identity, she would have to be willing to make some difficult choices. The next morning, Karen found herself standing once again in front of the doors of Stitches and Styles, her heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and resolve. This time, however, she was not here to unleash another tirade or demand compensation. No, this time, she had come with a different purpose in mind. Steeling her nerves, Karen pushed open the door and stepped inside, her gaze sweeping across the neatly arranged displays of clothing. The young sales clerk, Emma, looked up, her expression shifting from caution to mild surprise as she recognized the familiar face. "Mrs. Wilkins," Emma said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Can I help you with something?" Karen took a deep breath, forcing herself to maintain eye contact. "Actually, Emma, I'm here to apologize." The words felt strange and unfamiliar on her tongue, but she pressed on, determined to see this through. "My behavior the other day was completely unacceptable, and I feel terrible about the way I treated you and your staff. You didn't deserve to be on the receiving end of my temper, and I'm truly sorry." Emma blinked, her mouth falling open in surprise. I'm not sure what to say, Mrs. Wilkins. I certainly didn't expect this." Karen nodded, her gaze falling to the floor. "I understand, and I don't blame you. What I did was wrong, and I'm here to make amends. I've spoken with the store's owner, and he's agreed to donate a portion of the settlement I received to a local charity of your choosing. I hope that, in some small way, it can help make up for the distress I caused." Emma stood in stunned silence for a moment, her eyes wide with disbelief. Then, slowly, a small smile began to tug at the corners of her lips. "Thank you, Mrs. Wilkins. That's very generous of you. I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to make things right." Karen felt a weight lifted from her shoulders, a sense of relief washing over her. "I'm the one who should be thanking you, Emma. You and your colleagues showed incredible patience and professionalism in the face of my unacceptable behavior. I hope that, in time, I can regain the respect and trust of this community, and I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to make that happen." With a final nod, Karen turned and made her way towards the exit, her steps lighter, her heart a little less burdened. It was a small step, to be sure, but it was a start. A glimmer of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, she could find a way to redeem herself and reclaim the sense of purpose and belonging that had once been so integral to her identity. In the weeks that followed her unexpected visit to Stitches and Styles, Karen found herself grappling with a profound sense of introspection. The act of humbling herself and offering a genuine apology had left her feeling unmoored, as if the very foundations of her identity had been shaken to the core. Gone was the confident, unyielding Karen Wilkins who had once reveled in her ability to manipulate the world around her. In her place was a woman who found herself questioning the very nature of her existence, the validity of the values and beliefs that had once been the bedrock of her existence. As she sat alone in her vast, opulent home, Karen couldn't help but feel a growing sense of emptiness. The material trappings that had once brought her such satisfaction now seemed hollow and meaningless, a mere facade that masked the profound sense of dissatisfaction that had taken root within her. Driven by a need to understand herself better, Karen began to seek out new experiences, to venture beyond the comfortable confines of her well-curated life. She volunteered at a local soup kitchen, spending hours serving meals to the homeless and listening to their stories. She joined a book club, engaging in lively discussions that challenged her preconceptions and broadened her horizons. Through these new endeavors, Karen began to see the world through a different lens, one that was less filtered by her own sense of entitlement and privilege. She witnessed firsthand the struggles and hardships faced by those less fortunate, and she was humbled by their resilience and determination in the face of adversity. As her perspective shifted, Karen found herself grappling with a growing sense of empathy and compassion, emotions that had been largely foreign to her in the past. She began to understand the profound impact that her actions could have on those around her, and she resolved to use her influence and resources to make a positive difference in the world. It was a slow and arduous process, one that required her to confront her own biases and insecurities. But with each new experience, each new connection she forged, Karen felt a glimmer of hope that she might one day be able to reclaim the sense of purpose and belonging that had once defined her. As the months passed, Karen's transformation continued to unfold in ways she could scarcely have imagined. What had once begun as a simple act of atonement had blossomed into a profound journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Gone was the entitled, hot-tempered Karen Wilkins of the past. In her place stood a woman who had learned to listen, to empathize, and to use her privilege and resources to make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. At the local soup kitchen, Karen became a familiar face, her tireless efforts and genuine compassion earning her the respect and admiration of both the staff and the people they served. She learned the names and stories of the regulars, many of whom had fallen on hard times through no fault of their own. and she made it her mission to advocate for their needs and fight against the systemic issues that had led to their homelessness. In the book club, Karen's once insular worldview expanded exponentially as she immersed herself in literature that challenged her preconceptions and broadened her understanding of the human experience. She found herself engaging in lively debates, her once sharply honed arguments now tempered by a newfound humility and a genuine desire to learn. As her transformation continued, Karen's relationships with her family and friends began to shift as well. Where she had once been dismissive and entitled, she now approached her loved ones with a renewed sense of empathy and understanding. She listened more, judged less, and made a conscious effort to be a source of support and positivity in their lives. The most profound change, however, came in the form of a chance encounter at the garment shop, the very site of her infamous outburst all those months ago. As she stepped through the familiar doors, Karen's heart raced with a mixture of trepidation and hope. But this time, she was greeted not with hostility, but with a warm smile from the young sales clerk, Emma. "Mrs. Wilkins," Emma said, her voice tinged with genuine warmth. "It's so good to see you. How have you been?" Karen felt a lump form in her throat as she responded, her words sincere and heartfelt. "I've been, well, Emma. And I owe that to you and everyone here. The kindness and understanding you all showed me that day has changed my life in ways I never could have imagined." As the two women embraced, Karen knew that she had finally found the sense of belonging and purpose she had so desperately craved. It had not been an easy journey, but it had been a necessary one. A journey that had transformed her from a self-absorbed and entitled individual into a compassionate, empathetic, and truly remarkable human being.